Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've, as you've been kind of doing press for this film since Venice, I guess, last year, you've mentioned that a big part of the reason, the attraction of doing this film was that you wanted to do a melodrama. I'm curious, though, what was it about Henry James' novella, The Beast in the Jungle, that made you think, oh, this is the film project that's going to scratch that melodrama itch for me?
In fact, it went the other way. The Beast in the Jungle is a short novel, short story that I've read like, I don't know, 15 years ago, that I've read like 3 or 4 times. That is close from perfection for me. Heartbreaking, beautiful. But I never thought of doing a film with this. And then when I was thinking about my next film, I said, okay, when I don't know what film to do, I take a piece of paper and I just put some words on it, nothing about a story, but just words. And I put words like mixing periods, melodrama, mixing genres, green screen, stuff like that. And the word melodrama drove me back to this book instantly, because I couldn't imagine myself a better argument, I couldn't find something better. And so I reread it and decided to be as faithful as unfaithful to the book.
Both faithful and unfaithful to the book.
Yeah. And really what appeared to me is that the two feelings Henry James is talking about are love and fear, which are two beautiful feelings, that goes well together and that makes you feel alive in a way, So I decided to push these two words as far as I could, and that drove me like to the part in Los Angeles, and that drove me to the future and stuff like that. This is a weird path of thinking for a story, but that's the way it went.
I mean, yeah, there is a version, I guess, there's a world in which there is just a straight adaptation in which it's 2 hours of nothing but the 1910 sequence and, follows the story of the novella, down to the letter. But then there's this world in which I think the way you had described it in the past had been 6 characters, 3 worlds, 1 story.
Yeah, the challenge was to make one film, and not 3 films, to have 1 female character, not 3, even though, of course, every period has its, universe and its own characters. But for me, like, the Lea Seydoux of 2044 is the addition of 1910 and 2014 and etc. etc. And that was the most challenging stuff in the writing.
Yeah, I'm curious how you arrived at, as you're thinking about kind of breaking this one story into 3 different segments, how you arrived at 2014 and 2044 specifically. What was it about those 2 time periods that made you think this is what's going to complement the other stories?
In 1910, it's quite obvious that she's the one that is scared of love. So I was trying to find something more contemporary and to switch the idea of being, fear of abandoning yourself to love. And I thought about the incels.
As one does, yeah.
Yeah, I've weird thinking at night, But for example, God, what door did I open? Okay.
Close it immediately.
I'm going. The incel, what does he say? He says, okay, no woman wants me, so I hate them, so I kill them. I want to kill them. But there is something maybe that he doesn't want to admit or is unconscious, is that he's unable to love. And I really like this idea of this kind of character that is quite modern in a way, to talk about the fear of love, And Lea Seydoux, Gabriel, besides the terrible words he puts on his videos, it is what she sees in him. And she tells him, your fear is just that, I'm going to open the door. The fear is just that. She sees not a psychopath, she sees like a lost boy unable to love. And so thinking about the incels, as I think about them a lot, I remembered 10 years ago seeing the videos of Elliot Rodger, and I took these videos as a basis, for the writing. And I have to say that all the iPhone videos, except one, it's not my words, it's his words, because I couldn't write this way. There is something, when I discovered them 10 years ago, I was really fascinated, of course horrified by what he did after that, but fascinated just by the videos, the words he uses, the tone of his voice, something so gentle, and it's nothing like, it's not Jack Nicholson in The Shining. It's not, there's nothing crazy, it's just, and this is even more freaky, so that's why it's 2014, because they were posted.
Yeah, and these segments are using the vocabulary of stalker films, of like 70s and 80s stalker films, but to include the idea of Elliot Rodgers in that. The idea that you're like, we're not dealing with Michael Myers or Jason from Friday the 13th.
Exactly.
We're dealing with this real person.
And it's even more freaky, I think, Yeah. And if you see the structure of the film, because I say like the character, the addition of characters, just before he puts his first video online, or he records his first video, we're in 1910, and just before they die, the last moment we have between the two characters is Lea Seydoux like almost saying yes, and she says no, I cannot. And 2 minutes later, you have George MacKay in 2014 say, "No woman wants me." It's all this kind of little thing that makes links between the periods. Some of them are quite easy to see, some of them are not. But the biggest part of the work was to build that. As I said, not to make 3 films, but make 1 film. And George in 2014 is the following of George in 1910.
Well, yeah, it's, if I follow correct, if I remember correctly, it's like 1910. She is the one who is backing away and saying no, and then in 2014, he's the one backing away and saying no. And
Exactly.
By the time we get to the future in quotes, because it looks mighty familiar today, actually.
I'm afraid that the future is the present.
Yeah, exactly. That it seems like both of them are backing away in a lot of ways.
Yes.
That the emotions are gone altogether.
Yeah, and in 2044, she understands something. She understands what is that beast, at least after so many periods. But when she understands, it's too late. And that's the essence of melodrama. It's like you have like 2 characters. Everybody in the audience knows they should be together except them, and when they realize, it's too late.
It's a very succinct definition of melodrama. I like that.
It's a simple definition.
Yeah. Let's talk about the actors real quick. I know you've worked with Lea Seydoux in the past, and you'd said when you were thinking about who could play somebody from the past and somebody from the future and have it sort of track both ways, and Lea was the first person who came to mind. How did you present this to her, and what sort of discussions did the two of you have about the various Gabrielles?
Okay, we're between us, so I'm going to be very honest. No, yeah, I was thinking about Lea very quickly when I knew that there would be 3 periods, because I believe in her in the past and the future. She has something very modern, at the same time something, she can cross the ages, and she's timeless. There is something very particular, and there is no other French actress like that. And also, Lea has a huge mystery, even if the camera is on her for 2 hours and 25 minutes, at one moment you don't know what she thinks, and this mystery is very precious for a director and for this film in particular. So I wrote for her, and then I gave her the script, and she read it, which is not all, she doesn't read everything she shoots, but
remember, this is just between us.
There is a camera.
Doesn't leave this room.
I didn't see the camera. Sorry, Lea, I love you. No, we had a discussion mainly about love, because I think it's our favorite subject. And then 2 years passed before the shoot, because for many reasons. One of them, it was time to finance, then our schedule, then the death of Gaspard Ulliel, who was the actor. We're going to talk about that, but that was supposed to do Louis's part. And then I tried to talk to her about the film, but for her, she doesn't want that. She doesn't like that. So I reread the script in front of her, because she didn't want to read it again. And then I understood that. I mean, I know her. I knew that, but the part was bigger. She doesn't want to work too much before. She doesn't want to have an explanation, because I think she's scared that if you put words on stuff, she would lose like a kind of instinct stuff and rationalize too much. She needs to play with her instincts. So when she arrives on the set, she don't know exactly what we're going to do. So I grab her and say, okay, now we're going to do this scene, this scene, this scene. Now, first scene, I say like 4 or 5 words, before saying action that can ring a bell. And then she abandoned herself really, But she trusts me because we know each other for 15 years and we've done like a couple of films before. And sometimes when she couldn't get it, she said, okay, but let's be honest, Gabriel, it's you. So you know the character much better than me. Do the scene and I will just imitate you, That's how we worked. But we didn't talk a lot about the film because she don't like that.
It's funny because she does strike me as an actor who likes the process of discovery. I know people have called her an intuitive people who've worked with her have said she's a very intuitive actor. She does make for a wonderful blank slate, I can imagine, which is great for a filmmaker. But it is one thing to be like, okay, so let's see what we can project, how we can project onto this actor on the screen, and then to actually have her be the blank face of a doll for something like 25 seconds on screen.
That was the first shot we did in the film. Yeah. First day, first shot, and I took the first take. But she amazed me because she didn't know what the scene was talking about. I say, okay, the heart of the scene is the doll's face. Okay, you have to say these dialogues before, these dialogues after. And first take, and I was really amazed because it's when she does that. For a couple of seconds, you say, "Oh, she's very pretty," and then she gets really scary because you don't know what's in her mind, and that's why I use a lot of dolls in my films because dolls are very scary. I don't know why we keep like giving dolls to little girls. I mean.
You'd mentioned Gaspard, who the film is dedicated to, and now he passed away before production. My condolences still. I know that's, you knew him, you worked with him. It was quite a loss. How did George MacKay first come across your radar, and what was it that made you think that he could be the Louis that we see on screen?
So when Gaspard died, we were like a few weeks away from the shoot. So behalf like the grief and the pain and stuff like that, I had like a whole crew and an actress that asked me, what are you going to do, and I had to take a decision very quickly. So my decision was that I would do the film, postpone it, and not replace Gaspard with a French actor. To avoid any comparison, which would have been impossible for the actor and impossible for me. So I had to make the film possible again. So I started like a classical casting process with British and American actors. And I met George like after a few months in London. He loved the script, and I gave him some scenes to work on. And so I went to London, and very quickly I could see that he was an amazing actor, and the tests were very good. But besides that, I could feel in him like a huge, intimate rightness of the character and the challenges of every scene. Like I never talked to him about that, but I could feel that something like it rang a bell very intimately in him. So for me, it was obvious, I mean, we spent a couple of hours together, but after 5 minutes, for me, it was obvious. So I brought him back to Paris just to see him with Lea, just to see the couple, but it was like he made the film possible again.
I know we've got to wrap things up in a second, but real quick, I want to ask about the first shot and the last scene. So I'm curious about the motivation to start the film with a literal blank slate with a green screen and Lea, and then your choice of music for the last scene, for putting that over the moment in which she kind of realizes that love actually is too late.
Okay, I'm going to start by the second question. Well, the evergreen, it came very quickly in the script, just because of the lyrics, I mean, it was just perfect, like a love that crosses seasons, that never dies, and was the perfect song, the perfect lyrics to be at the end of this film, but not only, so that was part of the script very, very early. For the green screen, it's the prologue is the first scene I wrote, and I knew when I was writing this scene that it would be in the final editing. I was sure of myself, for many reasons. One of them is, for everyone in the world, green screen is related to virtuality. So if you do not have the prologue and you start the film with 1910, everyone says, okay, it's a period film, which is not. So if you have the green screen before, everyone knows that it's going to be a little more weird than that, and virtuality is going to be. Yeah, I'm trying to help the audience, The second reason was a little more unconscious, but I realized when I was doing the editing, is, I don't know, the scene is maybe a couple of minutes or 3 minutes, and you have for 3 minutes, like in this green ocean, green desert, you have like Lea Seydoux alone, and it's a way to say whatever the story is, my subject, it's her Gabrielle, but also her Lea, and the third reason is. This scene is divided in two. One is like a fake documentary. It's my voice talking and say, okay, are you ready? We're going to go. Let's go for a trip. And then she acts, with nothing, just, in her head. And you have the idea of fear, you have the scream, you have something, the idea of horror. And when you enter the film in 1910, in this very long party in 1910, you enter loaded by something,
Yeah, it's a common thing for filmmakers to start with, like the red curtains of a theater proscenium, and then the curtains open and you feel like you're being brought into the film. And in a way, I feel like that's the modern equivalent
exactly,
of that.
Yeah.
And then even the second time I'd seen it, I kept questioning, like, so wait, is this some sort of meta touch in which we're actually watching him talk to Lea before we get into the film, and then the film is bringing us in? I mean, it is one of those things that you are immediately, like you said, it kind of puts you on the back foot immediately. So you're starting to expect the unexpected from there on in.
Yeah. I was really, I'm never sure of myself, but I was really sure of this beginning.
Yes, trust your gut. That was smart. Thank you guys so much. When you open the 1972 nightclub, we'll all see you there?
Yeah, I won't tell you which year it's going to be each night. It's going to be a surprise.
Thank you so much, Bertrand. And
thank you
for
very
sticking
much.
around.
Thanks for coming. Thanks a lot.